Always glad to welcome Ann Coulter back. Happy New Year, Ann. How are you?
Happy New Year to you, Lars Larson.
She is the syndicated columnist, a best-selling author of In Trump We Trust, E Pluribus Awesome, and lately, Resistance is Futile, How the Trump-Hating Left Lost Its Collective Mind. She was once enamored of Chris Christie, and then that ended, and she was enamored with Donald Trump, and then that sort of ended, but I don't know. Maybe it's coming back now that the president has doubled down again and said, okay, Democrats, come up to the White House and let's sit down and do a deal. And he says he'll keep the federal government shut down till he gets the money to start building the wall. I know you're very frustrated that he's tardy in doing this, but you point out in the column that you wrote, and I thought it was a very good one, that border security means both everything and nothing at the same time. It can mean anything you want it to mean. It can also mean absolutely nothing and less than we're doing already.
I would put it differently. It means nothing.
Okay. All right.
If it meant a wall, they'd say a wall. If it meant a fence, they'd say a fence. No, as I point out, I went back on Nexus. I happened to notice that CNN and MSNBC are trying to push as the compromise. How about we just say border security? And I had this hideous flashback to the GOP primaries, really through my entire life now that I think about it, with all of the candidates, Jeb, exclamation point, Rubio, Kasich, the rest of them all saying, I'm totally for border security. Yeah, absolutely. We got to secure the border. Yep, we're going to secure the border. No, voters didn't fall for it then. They voted for the guy who called some Mexican illegal aliens rapists and drug and crime deliverers to America and promised to build a wall. I'm really getting tired of hearing about, and we took a completely deceptive BS poll, and look, Americans actually don't want a wall. How many times do we have to vote on this? You left out of my greatest hits, in addition to wildly supporting Chris Christie for a while, also Mitt Romney, and also Donald Trump. Apparently, it's very, very hard to keep your promises, very hard, at least if you're a politician. And this is something Americans have been voting for every time it is put on the ballot. Anything to restrict legal immigration, illegal immigration, to make it impossible for illegals to collect government benefits, to build a wall, to restrict legal immigration. Every time it's been put on the ballot, or politicians try to sneak through an amnesty in the dark of night, the American people rebel and vote for less immigration, less legal immigration, less illegal immigration. They've tried to slip through, the Democrats and Republicans have tried to slip through 3 amnesties in the last decade. And every time, it wasn't stopped by the Republicans. It wasn't stopped by the Democrats. It wasn't stopped by a leader in the House or the Senate. It was stopped by somehow word getting out, usually through tiny little public interest groups, not even, big TV stars, people like you, Lars, people like me. It would get out to the American people, they're about to pass an amnesty, and the congressional switchboards would shut down.
Yep.
We've now put this absolutely ridiculous creature in the Oval Office because his central campaign promise was that he would build a wall. Everything that is unappealing about Trump, the tackiness, the coarseness, that sort of thing, it actually made his promises more believable because respectable politicians have betrayed us over and over and over on this. Finally, we seem to have a guy who didn't care about elite opinion or being accepted into polite New York society. But as soon as he gets elected president, wow, that's all the bridge and tunnel guy wants. Please like me, Manhattan. Please like me.
Well, do you think that's now changed in that he said, I'm going to shut the government down and I'm going to keep it shut down as long as it takes to get that? Now, if he backs off from that, you're right. He's completely done. But you're right about the American public rejecting this idea. I'd remind people that in the summer of 2001, in the months right before the terrorist attacks, George Bush famously said, I'll see you at the signing ceremony. He was so confident he was going to be signing amnesty. And yeah. I talked to my audience, and they picked up their phones, and they got on their computers, and they lit up the switchboards, and they lit up the emails, and they said, don't you dare do this. Now, I kind of thought after 9/11 that was going to be the wake-up call, and everybody was going to come to his senses and say, oh, my God, we have to have absolutely rock solid security. A wall. We've got to have better ID. We've got to have real ID to get on airplanes and all that.
Yes.
And it didn't happen.
Verify. No, you're right. And I'm glad you're mentioning these other things because among the other, feints and twists and lies about the wall, you'll often hear, oh, the wall is just a metaphor. It's a metaphor. Yeah, okay, it's a metaphor in the sense that it includes a moratorium on legal immigration, an absolute across-the-board enforcement of E-Verify to protect American jobs for Americans, taxing remittances back to Mexico, billions of dollars being sucked out of our economy and sent back to really Carlos Slim's pockets, the richest man in the world in Mexico, and not going to pay American workers, not going to pay even for illegal aliens food, schooling, or health care. Don't worry, that's where you come in, taxpayer. It includes all of those things, but as a metaphor, it also includes a wall.
And the wall would actually make a difference. 18 countries around the world that have built large physical barriers after the terrorist attacks of 9/11. And America could be one of them. Israel was, and their 500-mile-long fence and wall. I thought it was cute, the response you gave when you were asked, take a look at Israel. Part of its fence, part of its wall, it works. It keeps the terrorists out. What's not to wonder about?
Right. What is acceptable to you? What is acceptable to me is what Israel has, because it's 100% effective. 100%. At first, the wall along their border with Egypt, as you say, hundreds of miles long, razor wire at the top, 16 feet high. After it was completed, it was only 99.4% effective.
Yeah.
That wasn't good enough for Israel. So at various portions along the wall/fence, it is mostly fence, I believe, they added another 10 feet, just like Trump said he was going to do when that former president of Mexico told him, you're not getting a effing wall. That's what he said. I'm quoting him, something to that effect, or we're not paying for the effing wall. Trump, the candidate, who was magnificent as long as he was only running and not actually sitting in the Oval Office with the power to do the things he promised to do, he said, okay, fine, the wall just got 10 feet higher. Of course Trump can do this if he wants to. The reason I think he will fold, and we're not getting any of this is, I don't know, either, as I said a few weeks ago, he's either just a lying con man, or he's a rank incompetent and has no idea how to get it done and no interest in finding out. But not only the past 2 years of Trump sacrificing every opportunity to build a wall, where is the Oval Office address? I know it sounds like I'm late to the party now, but I have been back during the transition. I was begging the president-elect to begin with an Oval Office address to the nation, saying lots of wild things are said during a campaign, but this is why we need a wall. It helps our working class. It's the least among us who are hurt the most by these drug cartels,
He could do
by
it.
low-wage workers. He could still do it, but for some reason he won't. For some reason he won't tax remittances. For some reason he wants to have allow Pelosi and Schumer to have their private meeting on border security, where he will win and they will lose. He just doesn't really seem to believe it.
I don't know, and it would be easy enough to do, and as you say, he doesn't seem to mind offending people. And by the way, Ann, I've been using the old number of $35 billion a year in remittances going back, $35 billion a year going to Mexico. Apparently, the number as of last year is $50 billion. Take a 10% tax, put a 10% fee on these remittances, a lot of them earned illegally, and say, okay, there's the first $5 billion paid for. Ann Coulter, thank you very much. She is the author of Resistance is Futile.